or?
Yeah, it's a JPEG.
Okay.
It's like when you add the virtual video setting and then choose virtual background and add files.
Yeah. Just a second, because it shows as something else. It's not really a JPEG, the one you sent me, but
it's okay. You already look awesome with that background though.
Okay, so shall we give up on the background? Maybe. Yeah.
We can try if
I'm trying. We still have some moments. Are we waiting for more people to join? So okay.
I will say hi to everybody, to the 60 participants in the Zoom already, and I think it will be keep going, ongoing, keep counting, and then we have got the some people waiting for the live streaming on the YouTube. Let me check if the YouTube is working.
And then the
YouTube streaming is not yet. Sorry. Oh yeah, it's going. Okay, we are on air on the YouTube streaming as well. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. This is the second after in the early of October. We have got, hello. Okay, recording. So we have got Dr. Francesco as well, Dr. Francesco Mazarella, and we have got the introduction in our first webinar, and he just delivered already about the service designed in sustainable fashion. And today we will hear more stories about his current project, which currently has got the award as well. So it's congratulations, Francesco, for the winning prize. And then I think you will tell us about that prize as well, probably.
Yes.
And it's all about and this afternoon in Indonesia, we will hear about the role of the design as the agent of change, like the design activism, and in a particular topic, the fashion design, fashion world. And I think there will be some the blacksmith or some about metal or something like that. Yes, so there will be so many sectors here in your movement in East London.
Yes.
So thank you so much. So the MC I will give to the Dr. Pandu Purwandaru for the MC, and then I will be moderating later.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Winta. Good afternoon, Indonesian time, and good morning, England time, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Francesco.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay, welcome again to all students from Faculty of Art and Design UNS and Product Design UK DW Yogyakarta at the second meeting of the visiting lecturer class by Dr. Francesco Mazarella from Center for Sustainable Fashion, University of the Arts London. First of all, I would like to welcome our honorable visiting lecturer, Dr. Francesco Mazarella. Thank you for spending your time for the second meeting of our programs. Dr. Winta as the moderator, lecturers from both universities and all students for showing your interest in this class. In this second meeting, the theme is that shared by Dr. Francesco is activating change in and through fashion. In this opportunity, Dr. Francesco will share his experiences related to his amazing Waltham Forest project. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Francesco.
Correct.
And in this class, I think students, you will learn a lot about how to be a community-based designer. As we know that designer in community not positioning themselves as the main actor. Otherwise, we are working as a good facilitator like what Dr. Francesco did in his project. In this case, we have to implement good attitudes, knowledge about organizing community and local values, and skills related to creativity, observation, and communication, so we can performing good empowerment, skill development, and increasing sustainable awareness for the locals. As the outcome of this wonderful community project, Waltham Forest Project, I would like to we would like to express our appreciation for Dr. Francesco for achieving Good Brand Award 2021 by Sublime Magazine. Congratulations, Dr. Francesco. We also happy to hear that. And this is the last class meeting, but that doesn't mean our collaboration with Dr. Francesco ends. We hope that in the future, next year, hopefully, we can continue to collaborate on joint project in Indonesia related to the community development or other visiting lecturer activities. I think that's it, my short speech as introduction. Without any further delay, I would like to give this panel to Dr. Winda. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Pandu.
Thank you so much. Francesco, as we know, there will be like some students from a certain subject. Let me see my list. Yes. So welcome to all of the students from the Art and Design Universitas 11 Maret for the Product Design Interior and Fashion Design. Hi. And also from the Tawacana, we have got Intellectual Property Design Ethics and also Research for Final Project. So yes, please share the presentation and we will share the video as the cues later given by you. And there is like, if you can speak slowly.
Yes.
So I will give you a hint, like if like this, and then you will speak slowly. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. Please, Francesco.
Yeah. Can you see my presentation now?
Yes.
Okay. Let me put in presenter mode, yeah. Like this. Okay. Okay, so hi everybody. As Winta and Pandu said, today I will talk about activating change in and through fashion. And already they introduced me, but I am a senior lecturer in fashion and design for social change at Center for Sustainable Fashion, which is part of University of the Arts London. Today, I will give an introduction about fashion activism and design for social change, but then I will present some case studies as project I've been working on to exemplify this fashion activist approach. And there will be time for question and answers. But as well, please don't wait until the last moment to ask questions. If you want, even during the talk, you can use the chat box or raise your hand and we can have a discussion. So The starting point for my research in fashion activism, it is the acknowledgement that the mainstream fashion system of production and consumption is proving unsustainable in terms of overproduction of fast changing, low quality and cheap garments, and which is what we call fast fashion. These garments are consumed and disposed of at high pace, and this is due to planned obsolescence. So designers that design collections known to be lasting only one season. And this results in a fast landfill because people throw them away very quickly. To tackle these sustainability challenges, some companies and also other, government and other organizations are deploying circular economy practices, sometimes also using sophisticated management models and technological innovations. But I find that sometimes these technical fixes within the currently unsustainable system do not radically enough address the underlying social economic issues in this mainstream system. So this is building momentum for an increasing number of designers to play an activist role. That means challenging the status quo and contribute to sustainability and social change. Alistair Fuad-Luke defined design activism as design thinking, imagination, and practice that can be applied knowingly or unknowingly to create a current narrative towards positive social, institutional, cultural, economic, and environmental change. As I research on fashion design for sustainability, I've also realized that often we are very much focused on envisioning future scenarios, but I believe it's also important to reacquire a sense of being here and now. And for this, I'd like to build on philosopher Albert Camus, who proposes a two-way approach to rebellion. And that means getting rid of the dysfunctional elements of this system and rebalancing it by exalting the beautiful assets that we have so that we can achieve a wider society and a thriving society. So although there is an emergence of the fashion activist practice, there is a need to further investigate its roles, values, skills, methods, outcomes, as well as what challenges and opportunities fashion activism opens up for the field of fashion design for sustainability and social innovation. So I joined Center for Sustainable Fashion 3.5 years ago. And at the beginning of my journey, I analyzed past and current research projects from members of Center for Sustainable Fashion through the lens of fashion activism. Center for Sustainable Fashion was established in 2008 by Professor Dilys Williams, and it is a research center, but we also do education and knowledge exchange with external organizations. And since its inception in 2008, our strategic ambition was to build a transformed fashion system towards ecological, economic, social, and cultural sustainability, which are the 4 pillars of sustainability. When I talk to people about fashion activism, not everybody defined themselves as a fashion activist, but there was a shared interest in having an ambition to play a more activist role. That means creating a current narrative to the currently unbalanced fashion system. And in this, I also identify different approaches to fashion activism. Some were more design-driven. For instance, in the image on the top left-hand side, there is a project by Professor Lucy Horta, which is called Antarctica, which reflects, she sets her own brief as an artist and designer. She sets her own briefs in response to contextual issues. For instance, in this case, about climate emergency and mass migration. The project in the center is by Professor Dilys Williams, and it's called I Stood Up. And she defines herself as a designer, as a host that creates the conditions for co-creation processes to happen. And the image in the right is represents the Tiger Girl, which is a group of Syrian refugee girls in Jordan. And they are grassroots activists by being at the center of the system that needs changing. So these are some of the quotes from my research. Overt political activism plays a vital role for people who are outside of the system to question and challenge it. But we need to recognize and value also stealth moves aimed at changing the system from within. Both approaches contribute to fashion design for sustainability. So as well, fashion, being an activist, is not always only being about political, but as well, there are some incremental changes that can still be very meaningful. When I analyzed fashion activist projects, I identified that often activists are very much driven by personal values. And some of these values can be positive, such as solidarity towards other human beings, society, or the environment. But also there is quite a recurring anger towards the unjust fashion system. For instance, when we established Center for Sustainable Fashion, to live by our own values was one of our strategic objectives. And this is for us a moral commitment to live sustainably in interdependence with other human beings, as well as within the limits of our natural world. I also was interested in identifying the skills of the fashion activist, but actually I find out that there is no a fixed recipe that can be applied across different contexts, but the craft of the fashion activist lies in the skill of crafting his approach to specific context, and also challenge the designer's ego and traditional notion of otherness. So it's not only about the ego of the designer working to solve other people's issues, but it's about co-creating the solutions that are the most meaningful for the community. As well, in this analysis of fashion activism, some of the recurrent traits in the personality of the fashion activist emerged to be being active, so the pleasure of making things happen, and doing things also by hand. Connecting elements within a system, being curious, also patient to wait for systems change to happen, and also open to collaborate with many other people. This is Helen Story, who works in a refugee camp, and she says the change within oneself at first is in the understandable urge to bring your skills, your experience, your knowledge into some kind of solution. Empathy powers you towards this, but the environment and the plight of the people require you to dump it all, and instead to listen to what is said and not said. Through a slow process of human agreement, we will create something that's needed together. So this is Helen has been for the past years has been designer in residence for the United Nations Higher Commission for the Refugees, and actually she was selected due to her experience and expertise. But through this process, she learned very much that she needed to throw away her previous assumptions or knowledge and engage in a process of deep listening with the community, so that the best solution will emerge from the co-creation with the people she works with. In the palette of methods for the fashion activist, there are not only traditional fashion design and making techniques, but also participatory design research methods. For instance, participant observations, walking, noticing, gathering through illustrations, photography, audio, and creative writing. I was also interested in find out in what format fashion activism can manifest. Some people produce objects, for instance, banners, T-shirts, but others also create social experiences. For instance, Dilys Williams in the I Stood Up project curated public conversations amongst first-time voters in Parliament in the UK for them to express issues that matter to them the most in life, such as, for instance, biodiversity loss. As well, when we talk about fashion activism, we need to consider in parallel both the tangible elements of activism and the intangible ones. For instance, the image at the center it's a project called Dress for Our Time, which is designed by Professor Helen Story. And she repurposed a refugee tent that used to house a refugee family into a dress that's been exhibited around the world. And it conveys the message of the precarity of our human life, but also ways in which we can live a more resilient life. So, and the image on the right-hand side is Professor Kate Fletcher in the Fashion Ecologist project. She installed a repair toolkit in a laundrette in this small town in the north of England. And you may think that these are very small sites of activism, but overall they lead to a micro change in the perception of the fashion system towards a post-growth scenario. So Kate, in this regard, said, at the moment, the narrative around the fashion system is a bit like an old wagon wheel, which is not round and doing its job, but it is very distorted around purchasing and lots of other stuff. So the work that effectively I'm trying to do is to balance things out and create a more balanced wheel by offering an alternative narrative around other ways in which fashion can exist within a space of lightness, optimism, engagement, and satisfaction. Being an activist implies facing multiple challenges between, for instance, the need to negotiate between your personal values and also a vision shared with other stakeholders you work with. There is the issue of building trust relationships with the community, but also dealing with ethical issues. As well, often fashion activists work in resource-scarce context and want to make very unconventional outcomes. And for this, they need to face technical barriers. As well, even if it is quite easy to implement short-term change, for systemic change to become manifest requires a long time frame, often beyond the time and the funding of a traditional project. And even if you are able to make things happen and change happen, it is difficult to assess the impacts of those intangible or qualitative outcomes. Therefore, there is a need to identify other methods of the assessment that go beyond traditional metrics of success. But overall, we have used the fashion as a lever for reciprocal learning and co-designing to better lives and feed hope. And we've used fashion localism as an approach to give people and to give power and responsibility to people in the things that matter to them in their everyday lives. And as well, at Center for Sustainable Fashion, we've been able to embed sustainability within design education and practice at many levels. So having an understanding of the system and a constant engagement with it, but also working at the fringes of the mainstream, Center for Sustainable Fashion has catalyzed positive change. But as educators, we also have a role to play in enabling a multiplicity of students, as well as tutors and researchers, to have their voices heard and act and adopt an activist mindset. So to conclude, I want to be echoing Herbert Simon that defines design as devising a course of action of existing situations into preferred ones. Designers are always dealing with change, but even more, activists are in constant flux, because the moment we put our ideas forward, the systems we work with also change, and we have to change our approach as well as ourselves. And also there is a wide spectrum of possibility of approaches to fashion activism. For instance, we have seen there were some more design-driven approaches, other very much from the bottom up, activated by the communities, but also what I define middle up down, which is being the bridge between grassroots communities and other aid organizations or NGOs. And finally, as we aim to enable change in others, we also realize that we undergo a process of change in ourselves. And these are some references if you want to find out more in your own time. And do you have any questions so far, or should I move into the case studies?
Yeah, maybe we can have like a little bit break.
Okay. Yes.
For you to take drink. Yeah. So if I can sum up, everybody, maybe later I will translate it in Indonesia. I hope you don't mind, Francesco. Is it okay?
Yeah. Yes.
So, yes. So again, from the first, it is about you also bridging, like, emphasize again about that the fashion is about the environment, yeah, the ecosystem, sorry, the ecosystem that consists of so many elements. So the designer community, the stakeholders, which is like government, etc., and then you have to, you say that the technical, like fixing, yeah, the just like to make a long-term extending the age of the product itself is not helping. It's just like in the middle execution, but you need like the movement, it should be from the beginning. Is it correct? Yeah. And yes. And there's like so many methods, but basically the designer should there is a role of the designer as well to do to advocate, and then to control how the things work, like questioning the system and then challenge and then try to divine a new value if it's needed. And also there is like the method is just, there is like design driven or designer as the host or the grassroots communities as well. And then there is like interesting like boundaries or keywords that there is an interdependence. Yeah, it's not dependence. It's that the ecosystem, it should be like interdependent from one to another. That, and then I highlighted as well that craft is an approach to a specific context because the nature of the ecosystem itself. And then the designer, we have to avoid there. Apparently there is a designer ego to solve problem. It's just like, oh, there is an ego to do the good things as well. But yeah, there's very interesting. And also you have to a designer should consider about the is it like the beautiful experience or for the society as well. So that is very interesting. Let me so let me translate a bit. Jadi teman-teman, ini lagi Dr. Francesco mencoba untuk mengajak kita kembali lagi ke yang dulu, bahwa ini semua adalah sebuah ekosistem di mana ada desainer, ada stakeholder, ada pemerintah, ada gerakan dari komunitas itu yang tidak boleh dilupakan. Gerakan itu harus dari awal, bukan hanya dari tengah-tengah lalu memperbaiki baju dan memperpanjang usia baju itu, tapi harus dari benar-benar dari awal dipikirkan. Dan desainer itu bisa kita bergerak bisa lewat R&D desainnya begitu ya, atau pergerakan desainernya itu sendiri atau dari komunitasnya. Nah, seorang desainer juga harus bisa mengadvokasi, lalu menjadi sebuah aktivis desain untuk mengkontrol bagaimana sistem itu bekerja, mempertanyakan, challenge gitu, ya begitu, challenge, saya lupa, lu mempertanyakan nilai-nilai yang sudah dibentuk apakah benar ataukah ada nilai baru. Tapi ada satu kata kunci yang menarik untuk saya, yaitu adalah ketergantungan, interdependent itu, dan bahwa craft itu adalah sebuah pendekatan yang sangat spesifik dalam ruang lingkup tertentu karena nature-nya ya, pergerakannya, ciri khasnya dari komunitas itu berbeda-beda dan ruang lingkupnya juga berbeda-beda. Lalu ternyata desainer itu bisa memiliki ego untuk menyelesaikan masalah. Itu yang harus kita hati-hati. Yang paling penting adalah seorang desainer harus fokus pada pengalaman yang indah untuk society-nya itu. Jadi kalau ada pertanyaan silahkan. Yes, and then you should not give no assumption. Designer, there's the professor just get rid of her initial assumption. And you want to add up something, Francesco, or?
Yeah, well, I didn't understand Indonesian, but I think, it's similar to what you were explaining before in English. So no, very good, well done. Thank you. Shall we move to the next bit and then we leave time for Q&A at the end?
Okay. Yes, okay. Thank you.
Because also with the projects I will explain, it may become more practical and easy to understand. So after doing this theoretical understanding of fashion activism, I then designed and deliver my own fashion activist projects that I want to show to you today as case studies. So the first project is Making for Change Waltham Forest. And shall we play the video now? Is it best if I try and click on it, or
okay.
You?
Amel will share it.
So do I stop sharing my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Amel, would you mind to share? Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Making for Change Waltham Forest is a partnership project between London College of Fashion and Waltham Forest Council. And do you remember, Laura, how did it all start?
I bumped into Lorna Lee, who's the Director of Culture and Heritage for London Borough of Waltham Forest, and we started talking about London Borough of Culture and how it might be a great opportunity for London College of Fashion to start a sort of partnership or a collaboration with the borough.
This project uses fashion and making to activate a positive change in the borough, but also with a long-term legacy. It comprises a program of activities in relation to education, manufacturing, community engagement.
And for London College of Fashion, it's a real opportunity for us to connect to local schools.
This resource for 16 to 18-year-olds, it offers an opportunity for students to engage in what sustainability means.
So it's about looking at what is going on in fashion now and what will happen in 2030.
The team has come in from London College of Fashion with a great deal of resources which we'll be able to use for the future.
And that also raises possibilities, aspiration, maybe even understanding what careers might look like in different industries like fashion. It's fulfilling a gap and a need, but also encouraging other learning.
So the other key strand was manufacturing, wasn't it?
So we had a great opportunity to have 3 members of staff at London College of Fashion to undertake residencies in fashion design and manufacturing businesses. So one of these researchers is looking into recommendations for policy for sustainable fabric manufacturing. Another one is exploring sustainable innovation and technology. And another is about revitalizing craft heritage skills.
In the shoe trade, all of your shoes are made on different shapes, and I had to make the shapes which cut the shoes out. I'm the only person in London now trying to keep the thing going.
I've contacted local schools for young people to come to workshops with Steve to see what he does, and hopefully they'll be inspired to continue on this legacy of creating a product that will last their whole life.
So of course community engagement is really important to us.
We've empowered people to actually enhance their well-being, learn new skills and contribute to sustainability. Tackling social issues like deprived youth, skills shortage, fashion manufacturing decline and unemployment.
This project is about empowering women and kind of teaching them how to make coats either for themselves or for donating them. We really want to teach them how to make a jacket that's really kind of a multi-use. You then can reverse, so you can kind of wear it in multiple ways. It's probably also easier if you have multiple children and different outfits.
As a parent, as a resident, what I can say, bringing into Waltham Forest, skill, unity, creating a bond among women. This is a very powerful thing.
And then of course there's the opening of the first fashion hub at Arbeit Studios at Leighton Green, which will provide long-lasting legacy for local employment, but also for our students as well.
So the main elements of the partnership plan between London College of Fashion, Fashion District and Waltham Forest Council are really around how we can help businesses thrive and the fashion industry grow within the borough.
We are in the heart of Leighton here in an old supermarket, and what a transformation it's had into the Arbeit Studios Leighton Green. It's full of creatives, it's providing a presence on our high street. People are walking past and staring, and it's a fantastic transformation for this area.
The project provides a great model for us to use going forward with other partners, particularly in relation to our move to Stratford.
Yeah, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Waltham Forest Council, the London Borough of Culture, the Great Place Scheme, and everybody really working on this project. Students, staff, the local community, the businesses. It's been a great opportunity, actually.
I agree, it's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, for me, it was very important to show the multiple people as well who have been part of this project, because without them wouldn't be possible. So I'm glad you actually saw the project also through their voices. So as you may have realized from the film, this project was a collaboration with local residents, schools, businesses, and communities in order to address locally experienced issues such as deprived youth, shortage of skills, decline of fashion manufacturing, and high rates of unemployment. And actually, so yeah, you may not be familiar with London, but the east side of London is where for centuries it's where all the manufacturing of fabrics and fashion was based. But in the last decades, most of these factories has been closing down, but there is an interest in regenerate this industry. And so in 2019, this area, which used to be a bit deprived, received a large investment of funding for the arts and culture to regenerate this area. And so I devised this project that comprised multiple activities with schools, businesses, and community around the themes of making, fellowship, and radicals. We worked with schools at different levels, from primary school, secondary school, further education, higher education, and also we worked with a special needs school for students with social, mental, and emotional issues. And we also had 3 members of staff at London College of Fashion who undertook 3 short-term research residencies in 3 manufacturing businesses. Wagland Textiles, Black Horse Lane Ateliers, and Cactus Leather, to address specific sustainability challenges. And then we worked with the community at different levels as well, to inform them, involve them in some projects actively collaborate, and also to empower them through a series of activities. Based on the evaluation from the project, it emerged that this project contributed to enabling raising people's awareness of sustainability issues. For instance, we had a team of students from London College of Fashion who defined themselves a Gen Green team, who became a finalist for the Green Gown Awards, which is a competition for university students across the country. We had also students from young age, from local schools, who gained experience in craftivism, so using craft and activism to tackle sustainability challenges. The research and residents enhance their awareness of the economic, social, culture and environmental implications of any sustainable change. We also had, this was delivered in 2019 at the time when we were the UK was about to leave the European Union with Brexit, and we had a live performance that discussed the social economic implications of Brexit on the fashion industry. And also we had an Art for the Environment resident who used the fashion to express the cultural identity and diversities of this community within a context of climate emergency. This project also led to empowerment through the learning of new skills. And such skills are creative repair, natural dyeing processes, zero waste pattern cutting, embroidery, carbon construction. But also some students learned how to facilitate workshops delivery or teamwork. And also we had students with special needs who gained making skills, but also through the making and collaboration with us, based on feedback from the teacher, they enhanced their self-confidence and also improved their behavior. As well as the manufacturing businesses who took part in this project said that through participation, they gained a stronger voice in the local fashion industry. And people said to feel more empowered, more hopeful, and enhance their self-confidence. This project also opened up new career pathways. For some students from local schools, this project contributed to expanding their awareness of the wide range of careers available to them in the fashion industry, because fashion is not only about fashion design, as they assume, but there are also other roles in fashion marketing, photography, journalism, etc. Also, this project led to some unexpected outcomes. Forest Coats was a program of workshops where we worked with women from a disadvantaged background for them to learn about garment construction and upcycle some fabric waste. But 3 women gained good skills to the extent that they got new jobs. 2 were hired as technicians at the university, and 1 was hired by a local fashion brand. As well, 3 graduates from the university set up their own sustainable fashion brand, and they are based now in this part of London, and they're contributing to the commercial sector of the borough. And also, based on the experience working with us on this community focused project, they decided to shift their business model into a community interest company. So they're continuing to work with us and the local government to deliver creative workshops for disadvantaged women. And also this project contributed to community engagement. The most powerful initiative in terms of community engagement was Forest Coats, which was an 8 weeks workshop program for upcycling fabric waste and make coats for children. And this project basically provided a safe space away from everyday life challenges for women who are victims of domestic abuse. They have housing issues, unemployed, lack of confidence, being migrants and not speaking good English. But they say that through through engaging in making things together with others, they reduce the level of stress and negative emotions and enhance their well-being. As well, the participants in the project felt less isolated, gained agency, and became more connected to fellow community members. And this project also contributed to building new partnerships. For instance, this activated collaboration across different departments, local London College of Fashion, and also Waltham Forest Council. We also created a network of partners of organizations. For instance, especially with Forest Recycling Project, which is a social enterprise that receives pre-consumer waste fabric, and there's a network of volunteers from disadvantaged background that can that are involved in making activities. We also co-designed a partnership plan between London College of Fashion, Waltham Forest Council, and Mission District that outlines the vision for making Waltham Forest a place where fashion businesses and people can thrive. And now we have identified the key working areas, and we have a team that is implementing this vision. But also a core partnership was established with Arbeit Studios, which is a co-working space provider. And we transformed a disused supermarket space into a fashion hub where there are now established fashion startups, and there is a communal area that we use to deliver cultural initiatives for the local community. And this is surely a tangible legacy from this project. To conclude, this project contributed also to reinforce my activist role. It contributed to strengthening my values, which are to preserve cultural heritage, tackle social inequalities, make local economies flourish, and enhance environmental stewardship. I've also learned a great deal of new skills, for instance, bid writing, project management, and also admin, as well as managing legal and financial issues. I also created a much wider network of contacts, which is a truly invaluable resource. I've also used this research project to inform my teaching practice by setting up students' project briefs related to this project. And also I've produced several research outputs that overall are contributing to advancing the discipline of fashion design for sustainability. So to conclude, this project contributed to demonstrating that fashion activism can be used as an approach to respond to locally experienced issues, and also to activate collaboration and participation across institutions. It led to empowerment and building new capabilities and enhanced community resilience. As well, I was, on one hand, I acknowledge that on one hand, I was grateful for the grant received for the London Borough of Culture, but I was also concerned with activating a more long-lasting legacy with the community beyond the funding received and the initial timeframe of this project. But it's fair to say that we activated a long-lasting legacy with the community. I also had to face several challenges trying to activate change from within the system. I could have perhaps adopted a more disruptive approach, like movements like Fashion Revolution or Extinction Rebellion. But instead, since this project was led by a public university and also funded by a local government, I decided to adopt a more quiet or indirect or slow form of activism. That means an embedded and situated approach to design meaningful social innovations. I also, working in these projects, I always find the tension between being an outsider and an insider. An outsider to the local community, but that to a certain extent allowed people to do and to think and do things differently. But on the other hand, I also used design ethnography, such as participants' observation, in order to become a cultural insider with the local community. And also I had previously lived in this part of London, so I had some insider knowledge. And as well, my role, I reflected also on my role in this project, and I defined myself as a bridge between the bottom-up communities and local government. So I adopted this middle up-down approach to design for social change. And finally, my initial ambition was to enable change in others, but also I realized that I was also being, even myself, I was undergoing a process of change in myself, by being at the center of the system that needed changing. Finally, in terms of recommendations for future work, there is potential for this approach to be further developed and build a placemaking model which can be transferable across different boroughs. Also, there is an opportunity to sustain the collaboration between London College of Fashion and London Borough of Waltham Forest and take joint actions to enable a thriving industry. As well, building on the learning from these projects, there are opportunities to map out existing programs across the college and the council and consider how to join them up for better delivery. We are also working towards developing a communication strategy to tell the unique story of local makers and raise the fashion profile of this part of London. And finally, we hope that other people feel inspired to use fashion to activate social change in their community and shape a more sustainable future. And finally, it is only thanks to the aligned values, creative skills, and continued engagement with a network of makers, fellows, and radicals that positive change could be activated. Do you want to take a break here quickly before I go into the next project, or shall I continue?
Okay, maybe just a couple minutes. So it's really interesting to have, like, you as a designer, and then you have the goal to enabling the community, and then you have, as a designer, you need to solve the problem and also learning from the community, and then you have the participatory design. It's always like that, like it's from them, it's by them, and it's for them. So let me translate in Indonesia a bit. Jadi teman-teman, kalau tadi kita udah lihat dan bisa dilihat detailnya di materinya Francesco yang dibagikan, bahwa kita ternyata saat kita memberikan solusi, ada goal yaitu untuk memberdayakan komunitas. Itu seorang desainer harus bisa fleksibel, jadi harus bisa memberikan solusi terhadap masalah itu, tapi sekaligus secara paralel belajar dari mereka, karena lagi-lagi metodenya adalah participatory design. Apapun yang dipelajari, apapun nanti solusinya, itu berasal dari tiap-tiap individu ya, dari mereka, dan diberdayakan, diselesaikan oleh mereka, dan hasilnya dampaknya oleh mereka, sehingga ada dampak individu dan ada dampak komunitas yang sangat-sangat membekas, sehingga tadi akhirnya menjadi berkelanjutan. Okay, Francesco, basically just like literally translate what I said to you previously, and then because there's so many slides still.
Let's do the next part.
I will let you.
Okay, yes, so the final project I wanted to present today is Project Rigo. And so this project tackles a set of systemic and social, cultural, and economic conditions that are produced a form of youth violence as a form of social practice. So levels of serious violence amongst young people in East London are increasingly high, and not much is changing. This is not a new story, but not much is changing to address this. And therefore, it is essential to work collaboratively to prevent and tackle youth violence, but also include young people in local activities. This is a systems map of youth violence, which is produced by the Design Against Crime Centre at University of the Arts London. And this map maps out the different conditions, like housing issues, the drugs market, poverty, prejudice and racism, as well as media and communication technology, that create a pipeline of vulnerable young people that are at the center of this problem. And to respond to these systemic conditions, young people develop a form of youth violence as a sort of social practice that is triggered by specific materials, skills, capabilities, opportunities, and motivations. As well, there are some links that you can look up in your own time if you're interested. So within this context, we activated a project Rigo that aims to illustrate to young people that they have a choice in shaping their lives to be more purposeful. And we use the power of fashion activism, co-creation, making, and storytelling to shift the currently prevailing negative narrative around young people that they are part of the problem, but instead we want to highlight that they can be part of the solution. So at London College of Fashion, I activated a partnership with the youth work organization, Catalyst and Communities, as well as with local authorities and fashion businesses to co-design and make a fashion collection against knife crime involving young people from East London. We started this project in 2020 and as a pilot project called CUT. We had a group of young people from Waltham Forest, which is an area of East London, to co-design, and we had a series of co-design workshops for customizing a collection of jeans that were donated by Black Horse Lane Ateliers, which is a local denim design and manufacturing business. So this way they've gained agency and new skills that hopefully will have a long-lasting legacy in their lives. So the assumption behind this project was that knives are only dangerous in someone's hand. Up until that point, they are just pieces of metal. So we wanted to shift this narrative, and instead we have taken metal from knives that were supplied by Knife Safe, which is an organization that delivers knife bins across the city where people live in anonymity some knives. So, and generally this organization melts down the metal to recycle it. But instead, we hacked this process and we used the water jet technology to transform the metal from the knives into buttons and rivets that were used in a bespoke collection of jeans. And these are some photos from the creative process with the young people. So we worked with an organization that supports young people that are affected by knife crime. And instead they learned about design and co-creation and making in order to understand potentially to have a career in the fashion industry, but also just to learn new skills and also feel have an agency in the local community. And this is the process of transformation of the buttons. And then through laser engraving, we engraved the CUT logo on the surface of the buttons. So the initial collection we did was a collection. We had about 900 buttons and rivets that were used in 150 jeans that were customized through ideas developed by the young people. And then we worked with a design agency called Studio Small that further developed these ideas into design of the buttons and also the messaging inside the pockets of the jeans. So generally, these jeans have care instructions screen printed on the pockets, but instead, because this project was the story of the project was very meaningful, we decided to write a messaging about this project inside the jeans. So as you can see here through the screen printing, and these are the jeans that were made. So we also made a short film to document this strategic design-led project, connecting creatives across disciplines and young people. And we also want to use this film as a call to action for other fashion brands, policymakers, investors to join this campaign and activate social change. And maybe we can watch the short film now.
Yes, Amel, would you mind to share?
Thank you. Through this project, we are tackling the issue of knife crime. We wanted to demonstrate the potential of fashion to shape better lives and activate social change. We're actually taking knives out of the streets and we are turning them into buttons and rivets to make a bespoke collection of jeans. We will also organize a charity auction in order to sell the jeans, and with the funding raised, we will support a social enterprise with ongoing activities to fund further opportunities for young people in the fashion industry. Was it the full film? Is it finished? It should be a bit longer, but otherwise it doesn't.
It's like a couple seconds.
Okay, well, there is also, I will post in the chat, there is also another one which is like 4 minutes, but we can, yeah, we can move on, and yeah, let's continue on the slides. Maybe I sent you the wrong one, because we have a trailer for social media, but we have a slightly longer version. But okay, so then also we involved the young people in the delivery, in the development of ideas for the brand name, the logo, the symbols, and the messaging. And then again, we worked with this design agency, Studio Small, to refine the brand identity for this pilot project CUT. And we have also, I set up also a brief for London College of Fashion BA students in fashion, PR, and communication to design further concepts for PR and public relationships and branding. Also consider how to scale this out as a wider campaign. And in fact, we often reference the Project Red, which is an international campaign that sells products to raise funding for medicine against HIV. So this is some of the creation process with the young people. And then as well, there is a link here to a project report that I've produced. And then we have received, as you said at the beginning, 2021 Good Brand Award from Sublime magazine in recognition of advancing environmental and social sustainability and not doing business as usual, because this project also opens up new models of social entrepreneurship to tackle these issues. So then based on the success of the pilot project in 2021, we have received other funding to scale it out. So as I mentioned before, we were working all in one borough of London, and now we are working across 4 boroughs in East London, so Hackney, Newham, Tower Hamlets, and Waltham Forest. And we're working with a wider group of up to 30 young people between 18 and 30 years old. And also, instead of working with one fashion manufacturer, we are working with a collection of fashion brands from East London, mostly emerging sustainable brand. And so at the beginning as well, just to highlight the challenges of delivering these participatory design projects during the pandemic, when we were in lockdown, we did some Zoom sessions. And then when we were allowed to meet, we had co-creation sessions in person, but also we always tried to use WhatsApp groups and Zoom as platforms to collaborate when it was not possible to do it in person. So this is one of the initial sessions where we were asking the young people to think about keywords of things that as values that matter to them in life, and come up with a manifesto to inform this project. This is again some of the creative sessions, and here it's as well one of the sessions. And we always bring the young people in some creative hubs that we have established across East London as a way for them to feel inspired to meeting fashion businesses, or also other university laboratories and other things, for them to expand also what the fashion industry or fashion education can look like. We also brought them to a vintage market for them to understand other approaches to sustainable fashion. We had some garment analysis sessions where they were learning how clothes are made. And so over the summer months between June and September, we had fashion training in design, media, and business. But also we worked with Catalyst in Communities, which is a youth work organization, and they were delivering weekly group coaching sessions that is about transformational mindset. So it's focused on critical thinking and emotional well-being. So to develop the soft skills like confidence or resilience that are very important to become fashion activists. And now in October, we have launched a collaborative challenge, which is a module that we teach at London College of Fashion for master students. But the master students from the university are budding up with young East Londoners and local businesses to co-create this activism-focused fashion brand called Rigo. At the same time, the young people are also undertaking work experience in a range of East London brands to develop skills in fashion design, media and business, but also to network with industry professionals. And at the end of the project, which will be in May 2022, we will organize a public engagement event, and that will comprise of a panel discussion involving academics, project participants and partners, and the wider community. We are also producing a short film about this project, so we will have a film screening to communicate the journey of the young people in this project. We will also have a pop-up exhibition showcasing the designs, the creative process, and the final garments that the young people will make with the local fashion brands. And also at the end goal is to set up a charity auction. So we are making products that can be sold in order to raise funding to support a charity with ongoing youth-led activities using fashion activism to address social issues. Because again, as I mentioned also for the other project, I'm always very interested in not only being parachuted into a community because I received some funding and I want to do an intervention, but it's important to make these projects sustainable in the long term. So we actually want to produce products that can be sold so that the money can go back to the young people, but also we want to expand this as a wider campaign. So we are always very open for new businesses to also join this so that we can expand the potential connections. And yes, here I think if you have any questions. I think I got to the end.
Thank you so much, Francesco. Yeah, I will sum up in the last one in Indonesia, just like to as a prompt for the questions. Okay. Jadi menarik sekali ya dari yang terakhir itu, Dr. Francesco mencoba untuk membawa anak-anak muda yang mungkin sama saja ya dengan kasus-kasus di Indonesia, juga banyak yang kriminal seperti itu ya karena lingkungan dan segala macam. Lalu bagaimana mendapatkan ide untuk mengubah knife to be menjadi pattern ya, dan berinteraksi dengan bisnis lokal dari jeans dan leather dan segala macamnya. Ya, menyenangkan, mungkin kalian bisa lebih merasakan gitu ya pergerakannya dan apa yang dirasakan oleh anak-anak muda itu. Jadi kalau ada pertanyaan mulai dari awal bagaimana ada tips atau apa begitu, silakan tulis di kolom komentar ya pertanyaannya apa. Okay, Francesco, before we have some question. Oh, there's like Hannah, Natasha. Okay, Hannah, do you want to open mic or should I just read your question? Maybe if you can open mic a bit, it will be nice.
Hello.
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 Hello, Hannah. How are you? Okay.
Okay.
By yourself?
Okay. I have a question based on your experience. Are there any tips for us as a student about considerable problems while engaging local communities and doing collaborative projects, such as in communication or keeping the group towards one purpose like that?
Yes, that's a very good question. Thank you. I think it's important to... Yeah. Shall I answer? Okay. Yes. One key. It's all. Sorry. Can you hear me? Okay, so
Yes,
one, recruiting participants and engaging with a community is often very difficult. So maybe some tip is also to go through some local organizations that can help, that has a well-established trust in the local. First of all, yeah, you need to get access to the local community, and so sometimes going through some trusted networks could be useful, because then they trust that organization, and then they can open up to you as well. Sometimes also asking them to take part in projects, the community may not have the time, or also, so if maybe you can partner with local organizations that deliver existing projects, and so that your project doesn't become so much onerous on their time, but it is more embedded in initial initiatives. And that's also successful. Thinking about the legacy, it can be useful, because even after your project, there is also an organization that can continue to sustain these initiatives in the longer term. But something also which is important is about, I would say, values and vision. As you mentioned, one purpose. So it is, people have different needs and aspirations. So it's important maybe at the beginning to co-create the project together with the community. So if you can go there, spend some time like doing participant observations, and really listen to what they're actually already observing, what they're doing, and listening to what they want, so that you can co-create the proposal together with them, so that's really meaningful to them. And as well, need to consider the ethics of this work when you of social design. So be very well prepared about ethical issues in terms of anonymity of the participants, how to handle the data, and all of that, so that you show professionalism and respect for their participation, and then try to keep them always engaged. So because one problem is that we do a project, and then maybe we are busy with our studies and we don't engage, but it's important that you feel that you are committed and engaged with the community. So even from time to time, check how they are going, or always try to share, and everything that you produce, like any findings or results of your analysis, try to share back with them, because it's important that they don't feel that you are using them for your data collection, but actually what you're doing is of benefit to them. So some tips here.
Yes, interesting. So it's just like, it's about trust, yeah, to build the trust by engage and be there. It's just like the art of the ethnography itself, yeah, and then be genuine, and then share the knowledge. Yeah, there's like some feedback as well from the community, like, oh, the student come and then they don't give us the knowledge that they've gathered, and then yes, so it's a little bit alarm for us. Okay, there's like another one. It's from Hadessa. Do you want to open mic, or should I just like read it for you?
Yes, please.
Hadessa Arumran.
Can you hear me?
Pardon?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
My question is probably quite similar to the previous one, but before that, I would love to say such an amazing thought process material, Dr. Francisco. My name is Asa, and I'm a textile design student from Universitas 11 Maret, and I am interested in knowing, as a new or fresh designers with minimum budget in joining the activism community, where do you think we should start? Where our connections are still small with organizations or people from the department we want to target, and the impact of our activism act might not really be seen by people. I know that internet or social media might be the best media to promote the Activism Act, but how do you really make people be interested in getting to know what it is the act about, and make a strong message to bring up an issue or an awareness? Thank you.
Thank you. What a beautiful question. Well, first of all, as well, small is beautiful, I would say, and even starting, even small steps actually can be very meaningful. I mean, we can be ambitious, but as I said also at the beginning of the lecture, it may look that we do very small initiatives, but overall we are, it's like acupuncture, and we are tackling this environment and systemic issues in like through acupuncture. Overall, it will release, it will tackle the climate emergency and the other social crisis. So don't feel discouraged as if you have to do something too big to start. I think maybe working with, as a student, if you can find professors or other people in the university who have research projects that you can join, that could be a good, because professors, I mean, the universities may have some budgets to start to work on projects, and you may either volunteer or be paid for taking part in these projects to assist your professors. I don't know your university how it works, but that's also how I did. And there are some other organizations, I'm not sure about Indonesia, but there is fashion, there are organizations that are like global movement, like DESIS network. I will then post also in the chat, but DESIS network is a network of university labs that focus on design for social innovation and sustainability. There is Fashion Revolution, which is also a global movement about fashion activism, and they have labs around the world. So maybe try and join these bigger communities, then yeah, I mean, these bigger campaigns or initiatives can help you maybe become part of a bigger community. Because yeah, you can also sometimes apply for small grants to start your own projects, but maybe it can be a bit small, a bit difficult as a student. There are also design competitions. For instance, we have at London, a Center for Sustainable Fashion. We're working on I'm taking notes because I will share these links in the chat after. We have a design challenge called Fashion Values. So you can also submit an idea to these design competitions, and then you may get funding for incubating these ideas. So there are ways to start and find ways to sustain your initiatives. But then very well said, some initiatives, some of these projects are very small and localized, that, as you say, is difficult for other people to find out about them. But as you say, yes, social media, it's a great way to promote these initiatives. And even if we act very locally, then through social media, people around the world can find out about what we are doing. Or also, even as you saw, I've used the film as a way as well, because it's so many people, so many initiatives happening all over the place. And as well, through a short film, like 3 minutes or even a trailer, it's just an easy link to send to people, and they can have a sense of actually what's going on in that place. So yeah, but as well, think about the best skills or the best partnerships, like find maybe a multidisciplinary team of other students, so that there is a mix of a social media person, a designer, a researcher, a filmmaker maybe, and so that you can approach this with a wide set of skills, to also consider communication, which is very important, because these projects are very meaningful but complex as well, and storytelling has a huge part to play. And don't give up, just be confident, and if you follow your values, I'm sure you will get there. And as well, I also want to reference Professor Ezio Manzini many years ago outlined this scenario called SLOC, which is small, local, open, and connected. And it means that when we work in design for social change, we may want to start very small with some very local initiatives, but if they are opening up and connected, overall, we can contribute to systemic change. And as well, once we have something that works, we can then think about scaling up as with Project Cut, we started only with one brand and 7 young people, and now we're working with 30 young people and a dozen brands. But as well, we need to think strategically how to grow these initiatives, but in a meaningful and sustainable way as well, because that brings lots of other challenges as well. And maybe just the last point as well, it's important not only to come out with new ideas, but also think about entrepreneurial models. So yeah, I mean, we did the fashion collection with the jeans, but then what we need to set up a social enterprise so that the money can be retained and then go back to the local community. So as well, if some of you is also interested in entrepreneurship or management or business, this is also very important, because yeah, it's not about volunteering your time, but also these things need to be financially sustainable as well as socially just and environmentally sustainable. So there is another question.
Yeah, it's a challenge for you from Nurul Aziza. Nurul Aziza, do you want to say it by yourself, or should I read it? Okay. Yes, thank you, Hannah. Okay, so Nurul, just like challenge you. Could I ask, one of Rigo's benefit is to prevent and tackle youth violence. For example, we learn to use knife in proper place. But how about sexual harassment, which the cause of it often related with the refilling clothes? How to solve this problem as an expert in this movement? Thanks a lot.
Well, it's a very interesting question. Actually, I must admit that we started with knife crime, but now that we work with other young people, they also want to explore other issues like homeless or mental well-being. But yeah, it could be also sexual harassment. I don't have experience. I haven't worked in this yet, but yeah, I haven't worked in this topic yet, but there is potential. You could, yeah, if you're passionate about this, it could definitely be a very interesting and meaningful project to use fashion activism to tackle issues of sexual harassment. So then maybe find a community where this issue is very prevailing. Maybe start talking. I don't know the politics of Indonesia, but I guess maybe there is central government, there may be local government, and maybe there are some departments about social care or something like that, or violence reduction teams. So try and talk to them and see what type of services they can deliver, and how together you can use a creative approach to them, and maybe they have funding to start these projects. You may also want to consider, because it's a very sensible project topic, you may want to consider maybe involving, if you are a design student, like a fashion student, you may also want to consider working with a psychologist, maybe, because you will have these things. Think about the ethics of these research projects, and yeah, think about the storytelling. And yeah, definitely there is lots of potential for starting a new project, and let me know how it goes. Sounds fantastic.
Thank you. So as Francesco said from the first webinar as well, every context is just like so like specific, yeah, and then it should be explored more and more. Yes, as well. Yeah. So
just maybe, sorry, to conclude, also when I started the project about knife crime as well, I wasn't an expert of knife crime, but it was the community. They said, we have lots of these issues, how can you bring your expertise to solve this? And actually my expertise is only making connections and have this systemic approach to these issues. But and then as a researcher, I started researching the project and together co-create the solutions. But I did a co-design phase. So I did a 3 months residency together with the local council, to the local government, to understand what objectives they had, what initiatives they had, and then try to look also at the university what initiatives we had and how to match the two, so that what our offering was meeting the needs of the local council. So maybe if you can spend some time co-creating that project together with relevant organizations, it's more likely that your proposal will be successful, and you may also receive funding, but also will be meaningful to the needs of the local community. And then there is another question.
So, Francesco, yes. So, Dr. Francesco, if we already like want to make like a baby step, and then we have got like some questions, can we contact you on the Instagram or something, like any platform? Can we add you?
Yes, maybe the best is via email. I will post here my
Via email. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you so much. And then also, so there is like a question from Romi Pratama, and I think it will be like closing as well, because the question is really interesting. Like, hello, my name is Romi Pratama. I'm from UNS. I'm interested in avant-garde fashion. Could you give me a statement about sustainability in avant-garde, or maybe fashion as an art form? Could it be possible? Thank you.
By statement, do you mean even just references or example, or
like a statement? Yeah.
Yes. So, for instance, in the first part of the project, of the presentation, there were two examples that I find it quite interesting. Helen's story, the dress for our time, that there was some pictures at the beginning. It's a dress made of a refugee tent, and this became an installation in different parts of the world. I think in a way it's fashion that becomes an art form, but also because it was exhibited, for instance, in the Science Museum, and also, for instance, for a specific installation, Helen Story, the designer, she also worked with Holition, which is a science organization, and they projected the climate data about climate change on the dress, and then they organized some family drop-in workshops for young people to learn about climate change through engaging with this dress. So lots of how the dress, which is fashion, became an art form, but also really to stimulate lots of conversation and awareness around sustainability. Or another project is Professor Lucy Horta as well. There are some images in the initial part of this presentation. Two projects. One is Procession. So in 2018, it was the 10th year anniversary of the suffragette movement in the UK, which is when the women got the right to vote in the UK. And she worked with women in prison, and they did some banners made with embroidery from messages from the women in prison. And they used these banners for a procession in 4 cities across the UK. And that was not only for women in prison to learn embroidery and making skills, but also to produce artworks that then went into the public space through the procession. And it was really a collective of women celebrating the rights to vote. So again, fashion as an art form to tackle a social issue. Or the Antarctica project as well. She produced, it is about ownership of the space, and she created some passport of this Antarctica, which is like a land for everyone. And yes, about issues of citizenship and ownership of the world in which we live, and how there is so much issues of mass migration due to climate change. But then this is a fiction of a passport that everybody can have, and it's a way of unifying people from around the world. So a message of solidarity through this design means of a passport. Just some examples, and I can share you also some other publications if you're interested to find out more.
Yeah, okay. we will share if Francesco give us link, and then Universitas 11 Maret and also the Tawacana. Yeah. So okay, so this is the last statement.
Yeah, maybe I will finish with this quote as well. Professor Kate Fletcher works with me, and she published in 2018 this fanzine called The Way of Rebellion. And I like this quote to conclude: negate and exalt, change and celebrate, critique and construct, rebel act by rebel act. A new fashion system emerges from ideas of what we want to experience. It is built from empowerment, wonder, joy, care for others, physical movement. It is ours to make. So as well as if we all have the power to make a new, more sustainable fashion futures that is based on the values that matter to us in life. And they can be joy, solidarity, care for others and for the environment. And as well, so we can criticize what doesn't work at the moment in the fashion system, but little by little, through our baby steps in our local community, we can shape a more sustainable future in and through fashion. Thank you. And here you have my contact details as well, if you are interested.
Okay, thank you so much. Give Dr. Francesco loves by the reactions or claps. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Francesco, for your time and your insight. Dr. Pandu, do you think like we have to take a picture for the whole, like the crowd, or should we end it immediately?
I think we can end it immediately because we have only maybe small amount of time. Yeah, I think it's okay to end this webinar, Dr. Winta.
Okay. Thank you so much, Francesco. And guys, again, we have got like a complete series of Dr. Francesco, and from these two webinars, Dr. Francesco always try to invite us, not just like think about the product itself, but beyond of the product. The product is just like a strategy to achieve the impact, yeah, to enabling the community. Okay, thank you, Dr. Francesco, Dr. Pandu, and all of the lecturers from the Universitas 11 Maret and Tawacana, and also all of the students, like more than like 110 already. And yeah, hopefully they will be like a very good steps for a better future. Thank you so much. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Francesco.
Thank you so
See you again.
Bye.
Terima kasih Mbak Winta.
Ya, terima kasih. Thank you so much.
Ya, terima kasih semuanya juga sudah hadir.